people do even stranger things.
Who have you done bunkers for?
Kardashians, Zuckerberg.
I have joined. He's joined the cult. Did you just call it a cult?
The best things in life are on the other side of fear.
No. So how many kids do you have?
April 7th, 164 was born.
In the new series.
Question is, why?
Tomorrow, 8:30, ABC TV.
The search expands. Police scour Sydney bushland as they investigate the abduction of 85-year-old Chris Bagzarian.
Mar-a-Lago mayhem. The Secret Service kill a man carrying a shotgun at Donald Trump's Florida estate.
The opposition pushes to outlaw helping the so-called ISIS brides return home to Australia.
Outback deluge. Heavy rain causes chaos across multiple states, closing the vital East-West Railway.
Surgery scandal. Louise Milligan on Four Corners' months-long investigation into one of Melbourne's most prominent gynecologists.
Final day of competition here in Italy.
She's back.
Of course I'm back. It's the Adelaide Fringe and we have got plenty coming up.
Welcome back on this Monday morning. You're watching News Breakfast. Great to have your company. Well, police have been searching into the night in bushland in Sydney's northwest as they continue to investigate the abduction of Sydney grandfather Chris Bagzarian. It's now 10 days since the 85-year-old was taken from his North Ryde home in Sydney's northwest in what police have described as a case of mistaken identity.
Glenorrhy is near Dural, where a crime scene was set up last week at a house detectives believed Mr Bagzarian's captors had been using as a base. Max Tillman is there for us this morning. Max, what can you tell us?
Good morning, Catherine. Well, you're absolutely spot on there. We're about 15 kilometres away from that dilapidated and abandoned property in Dural that New South Wales Police raided late last week. On Friday, they announced that they do believe that it had been used as effectively a makeshift fortress by those alleged kidnappers of 85-year-old Chris Bagzarian, who was ripped from his bed and thrown into an SUV and taken to a still unknown location on February 13 from his home in North Ryde in Sydney's northwest at about 5 a.m. Now, we are here in Glenorrhy on the northwest fringe of Sydney. What we understand is that police investigation began at about 6 p.m. last night. It's particularly a vacant block and adjoining bushland that New South Wales Police have been scouring throughout the night. We understand that at about 6 p.m. there was the New South Wales Dog Unit, there was Police Air Command, as well as a number of line searches that were conducted, particularly around that bushland and vacant block. Now, earlier in the week, we had heard that a white Corolla had been found in Westmead in Sydney's western suburbs last Tuesday, burnt out. Police believe that that particular vehicle could be linked to that property in Dural. We had heard on Friday that while police do concede that hope is fading for the 85-year-old, they do believe that they are closing in on those alleged kidnappers. Now, we are expecting to see more police join the scene this morning. We do understand that the New South Wales Robbery and Serious Crime Squad, who have carriage of this alleged kidnapping, are due to join officers this morning as these investigations continue. Now, we had heard last Friday that police had used what they had described as a hostage video that had been filmed and distributed by those alleged kidnappers to find consistencies in that footage with that property in Dural. That's effectively what led them to that address. Now, we are expecting to hear an update later this morning on how the search is going here, really only 15 minutes away from that Dural address. What we understand from police is they're still working on the theory that Mr Bagzarian was effectively the victim of a tragic case of mistaken identity. Those alleged kidnappers could have potentially been targeting another family with alleged links to the Alameddine criminal network here in New South Wales. So those investigations still very much continuing, and we are expecting to hear an update later this morning.
And we'll bring that to you as soon as we get it. Max Tillman, thank you.
Well, it's been a year since the federal government announced plans to invest billions into bulk billing as part of its re-election bid. The push is designed to ensure more Australians can see a doctor without out-of-pocket fees, and now the figures are in. And Federal Health Minister Mark Butler joins us from Parliament House. Good morning to you, Minister.
Morning.
Tell us, what do the figures tell us about how many clinics are now bulk billing?
Well, the figures show a record jump in bulk billing right across the country, increasing in every state and every territory. We've got 1,300 general practices that last October were charging people a gap fee, are now bulk billing all of their patients all of the time. And the really pleasing thing is that we're seeing big bounces in bulk billing for people who don't have a concession card. Middle Australia that is doing it tough and has been finding themselves less able to go to the doctor when they need to because of cost. We've got the bulk billing rate for pensioners and concession card holders well over 92% now, but I was concerned to see it turn around for those people who don't have the benefit of a concession card. So along with cheaper medicines for those Australians, more free visits to the doctor is going to be terrific for their health.
So would you anticipate if we continue on this trajectory, we would see that goal reached 90% of all GP visits being bulk billed by 2030?
Yeah, we've still got a long way to go, obviously, but the early start has been even more encouraging than I had hoped. As I say, we're now over 3,400 practices across the country bulk bill all of their patients all of the time. We'd expected to get to 3,600 by 2028, so we're well ahead of schedule, but we've got more to do in some markets where bulk billing rates are still pretty stubbornly low.
What do you make of this suggestion from the Royal College of GPs suggesting that there could be an independent body that sort of sets rebates and fees for all GP practices across Australia? Would that be a fairer system, and would it ensure greater trust from GPs in the system as well?
Well, it's not our focus right now. I think I understand where they are coming from after 6 years of a freeze on the Medicare rebate under the former government. I think they're obviously concerned about the possibility of that happening at some time in the future. But, you know, for our government, Medicare is the most important social program we have, and we're determined to strengthen it and to make sure it works for Australians. So we're not ready to hand off responsibility for it right now.
So is that an absolute no, Minister, or is it something you look at over time?
Well, it's not our plan right now. We've got a very big agenda on Medicare. We've just struck a hospitals agreement with states and territories. I mean, there is nothing more important to Australians than their health and the health of their families. So we've got a big agenda and we're focused on implementing it right now.
Minister, I want to ask you about this landmark Four Corners investigation into Melbourne surgeon Dr Simon Gordon, with a range of allegations about the way that he treated women over time. You've had a look at these allegations. They are deeply disturbing, aren't they?
Well, they're some of the most distressing testimonies I've ever seen in my many years in the health portfolio. My deepest sympathy for these young women who were just wanting help and some hope with a condition that is really very debilitating. I have to say it made me quite physically sick reading some of the testimony, and so investigations by the relevant authorities must take place for this particular doctor. But I've also asked the Victorian Government whether there needs to be some work done on the clinical governance of the hospital in question, because frankly there had been complaints, as I understand it, made about this individual doctor over a number of years. So how he was able to continue to practice this on so many young women, I think, is a question that needs to be asked as well.
And have you had a response from the Victorian Government yet, Minister, on that?
Not yet. I only wrote to the Victorian Minister a few days ago after these allegations became clear to me, so I'm sure she'll be taking this very seriously, because this is an incredibly distressing series of cases under one single doctor.
Just before I let you go, let's turn to the Australians who are in Syria looking to return to Australia with alleged links to ISIS. The coalition's calling to criminalise help for external people seeking to bring some people back who are accused of crimes. Is this something that you would consider? Does there need to be more legislative work done to ensure that there is greater checks and balances when people are seeking to return home here to Australia?
Well, this looks like a bit of a grab for a headline more than a serious policy. I mean, all we've seen is newspaper articles about it, no serious content about what appear to be some plans to try and criminalise the work of aid organisations like Save the Children. We're focused instead on applying the strict letter of the law. I mean, these are laws that were put in place by the former government. Angus Taylor was a minister in that government. Those laws govern the return of 40 people during the term of the last coalition government, not just women and children, but ISIS fighters themselves. We've said very clearly we're not lifting a finger to assist or support these people return home and applying the strict letter of the law, which is put in place by the former government.
All right, Mark Butler, thanks for your time this morning.
Thanks very much.
Let's have a look at some of the rest of the day's news. And the families of survivors have slammed the timeline to get an information sharing database up and running. It was promised following widespread alleged sexual abuse in childcare centres. Government signed up to the database last year, but it won't be up and running until 2029. Federal Attorney General Michelle Rowland says the reforms are complex and governments are working expeditiously.
A major outback rail line has been closed after heavy rain and flash flooding in South Australia's north washed away significant sections of the track. The Australian Rail Track Corporation says it's been forced to close the east-west rail line due to the damage northwest of Port Augusta. The line is a major freight route that connects Perth with Adelaide and the eastern states and is also used by the Indian Pacific.
Another psychiatric patient has failed to return to Sydney's Cumberland Hospital, prompting a police search. 2 other patients escaped from the same hospital last week and allegedly killed 3 people in 2 separate incidents. New South Wales Police have issued an appeal to help locate 25-year-old Maiden Pandy, who was last seen leaving the facility on Saturday morning.
Britain's premier film and television awards are underway in London. Aussie Rose Byrne is in attendance at the BAFTAs, having been nominated for Best Leading Actress. Meanwhile, fellow Australian Jacob Elordi has lost to Sean Penn for Best Supporting Actor.
Well, let's have a look at the top story in sport today. An Aussie teenage skiing superstar, Indra Brown, has fallen just short of a medal at the Winter Olympics. The 16-year-old finished 5th in the free ski halfpipe event, with China's Eileen Gu taking out the gold. Her finish is the best by an Australian since teenager Jakara Anthony, she was a teenager back then, I should say, came 4th in the moguls at the 2018 Winter Olympic Games. Hard to believe she will only be 20 when the next Winter Olympics comes around. Now, for an update on all things weather and probably not much snow, here's Nate.
Literally no snow, but I've got one of just about everything else, I reckon, team. Morning, we're keeping a close eye on wild weather through the middle of the country. For the capitals, it's actually looking relatively settled, though we do have a couple of showers around. For Brisbane, you're aiming for 30. Bit grey in Sydney, 30 there as well. Canberra, a shower or 2 for you, 31 will be your top. After that, though, skies are clear. Well, they will be in Melbourne, 23 your top, 22 in Hobart, it's getting to 29 in Adelaide, 31 in the west for Perth. Darwin, you're dealing with some showers, 32 your maximum. Now, we've got widespread warnings through central Australia, heavy to intense rainfall in the mix today. We're also expecting to see some damaging winds for some, thanks to a low pressure system that's very slow moving and it's sticking around all week. Stick around, I'll have a detailed look for you.
That is Ayo Basari, an award-winning WA-based producer, composer and writer, and their debut solo EP called Joy in Balloons is set for release this Friday, so keep an ear out for that one. Also, do not move a muscle. You've got to stay with us the entire show this morning because we've got a very big announcement coming up, and we don't say this lightly. It is very... No. There's a lot to it.
There is a lot to this announcement. It's coming up at 8:10. Make sure you are in front of your TV. Don't miss it. That is all we can say for now. Let's return to the day's headlines. And a man has been shot dead after breaching security at US President Donald Trump's Mar-a-Lago home. The president wasn't at the Florida estate at the time. Our reporter Emily Gromens is in Washington, D.C. this morning. What happened?
Well, this happened around 1:30 in the morning local time overnight. Police say that a man who was armed drove through the North Gate perimeter at the Mar-a-Lago estate. That's Donald Trump's private club in Florida. US media are reporting that this man has been identified as a 21-year-old from North Carolina. When he breached that perimeter, he was confronted by 2 Secret Service agents and a local sheriff's deputy. Here's what the Palm Beach Sheriff Rick Bradshaw said earlier this morning.
They confronted a white male that was carrying a gas can and a shotgun. He was ordered to drop those 2 pieces of equipment that he had with him, at which time he put down the gas can, raised the shotgun to a shooting position. At that point in time, the deputy and the 2 Secret Service agents fired their weapons and neutralized the threat.
Emily, have we heard anything from the White House yet?
We haven't heard anything from Donald Trump. He has been posting this morning on social media, but he's been talking about the US men's hockey team winning the ice hockey final at the Winter Olympics. His press secretary, Caroline Leavitt, though, has addressed the incident. She posted on social media saying, in the middle of the night, while most Americans were asleep, the United States Secret Service acted quickly and decisively to neutralise a crazy person armed with a gun and a gas canister who intruded President Trump's home. Now, this comes at a time of heightened political violence in the United States. Donald Trump was, of course, the target of assassination attempts while he was running for the White House in 2024. We don't yet know this man's motivations, and President Trump and the First Lady Melania Trump were here in Washington, D.C. this weekend, not at Mar-a-Lago, but it certainly is a very troubling incident.
It certainly is. Emily, thank you for the update.
Well, tonight's Four Corners investigates how a top Melbourne surgeon operated for severe endometriosis, failing to tell his patients their pathology showed little or no signs of the disease. It also exposes how complaints and red flags were ignored for surgeries that senior specialists have described as unnecessary and harmful. Investigative reporter Louise Milligan has spent 7 months working on this story, and she joins us now. Louise, reading this is quite a journey. It is deeply emotional hearing these women's stories. Who was Dr. Simon Gordon, and what do we know about some of the allegations?
Well, the thing that is so disturbing about this story is Dr. Simon Gordon was not, a marginal doctor in a sort of far-flung regional hospital. This was, by one measure, the busiest laparoscopic surgeon at the largest private hospital in Victoria, the Epworth. He was, he had, by his own account, I think he said 13,000 patients over decades of surgery. And what we have uncovered in relation to these women is so shocking. And, you both know, as women, we all suffer pelvic pain. 1 in 7 women have endometriosis in this country, and, we deserve better.
Yeah, you put your trust in health professionals, don't you?
How does this even happen, that a doctor gets to perform a procedure despite the diagnosis not warranting it? How is that even possible?
So what Dr. Gordon was repeatedly, according to our investigation, telling women was that they were riddled with endometriosis, that they had advanced endometriosis, severe endometriosis, and he wrote that on operation reports, and he wrote it to GPs. We discovered quite early on, through one of the people that we spoke to, that she had got angry with his care, and she had requested what's known as her histopathology. So the pathology report's done on the day of the operation, and when she read them, there was no endometriosis. And that prompted us to ask multiple women to go and ask for their histopathology, because he never gave it to them. And other gynecologists do, and it was the same story again and again. And, in the worst example, a young woman who had 7 procedures.
7.
By the time she was 25, and both her ovaries and her uterus out, and all of the histopathology shows no endometriosis, except for one sample of many, many, which shows some indication that was consistent with a minor amount of endometriosis.
So these are the allegations being levelled against Dr. Gordon. What's his response been?
His response is that, he never did the surgery unless it was indicated, that, he operated on thousands of women, that he only ever did it to alleviate pain. We asked him repeatedly to come on our program to explain what he had done, and he declined to do so.
Right. Partway through your investigation, Dr. Gordon actually resigned. What happened and what's the process now in terms of investigations?
Well, as you said, we started looking at this 7 months ago, and back in October, Epworth Hospital discovered that we were making calls, and we had a call from a crisis communications professional working for Epworth. A few days after that, Epworth, the Chief Medical Officer, asked Simon Gordon to go on leave, and he decided to retire. He decided to retire immediately to spend time with his family, he said. He cancelled all of his operations for the next week. He cancelled all of his appointments. And women were left in chaos because people were sort of expecting to have operations. So it's now, as Mark Butler said, the subject of a very large investigation by AHPRA, the medical regulator. Thousands of pages of documents have been taken from Epworth Hospital and from Dr. Gordon. This is after years of women complaining to AHPRA. And there's also an investigation by Medicare, and the Minister has asked the Victorian Minister to set up an inquiry by Safer Care Victoria. So we're just waiting to hear this week what Mary-Anne Thomas, the Victorian Health Minister, is going to do about this.
And Louise, what are women saying to you that you've dealt with? Because I cannot even imagine these are operations that can compromise fertility.
And have.
What do they want to happen next? It's just heartbreaking to think it was even possible.
They want this to never happen again. And, it's not just the women that we've spoken to. We've had doctors who have very bravely gone on camera. And one in particular says, they all knew. This was an open secret in gynecology in Victoria. And I said to her, why didn't this come out? And she said, because we're scared. Because he was very powerful. He was making a huge amount of money for Epworth. And, as I say, we saw some statistics that showed he was the busiest doctor there. So there's, a system of patronage in medicine. But there were multiple complaints to hospital management by clinicians, by nurses, by doctors, by patients, and to the medical regulator. And the big question is why nothing happened, why this man continued to do what he did, and why women lost reproductive organs and the ability to have a child after those complaints were made.
Why? Louise, thanks very much for joining us on the program to take us through this incredible and devastating investigation. We really appreciate it. And you can watch the full episode of Four Corners tonight on ABC TV at 8:30 and on ABC iView as well. And do get on and read the digital story, which is at the top of our ABC News page at the moment as well.
OK, let's go to sport now. And the closing ceremony for the 2026 Winter Olympics is officially underway. Let's get to our Winter Olympics correspondent, Erin Mercigavettera, who's in Livigno for us this morning. Erin, good morning to you. Good evening, should I say. It's been an amazing couple of weeks. How is it going over there? Imagine as it's a time of reflection during the closing ceremony.
Good morning, Catherine. That's right. We've seen some beautiful tributes to the history of opera in this country because this closing ceremony is taking place in Verona at this beautiful amphitheatre that's over 2,000 years old. And we've seen it spill out onto the cobblestone streets, similar to the opening ceremony at the Paris Olympics, how the performances and those putting on the show really were showcasing the city itself. The athletes have marched out as well. We've seen Cooper Woods and Danielle Scott with the Australian flag leading the Australian contingent out into the arena, and all the athletes just really able to let their hair down now that all the hard work is over. Some of them going on to competition again very soon, but just enjoying this evening. And we've seen a host of Italian performers and singers. No big international stars like Mariah Carey for the closing ceremony. Italy choosing to show off some of their own instead.
And they probably couldn't afford Mariah twice, let's be real, and that's completely okay. Erin, the men's ice hockey, it was a thrilling finish in the final this morning. What happened?
Yeah, just incredible. The first win by the US team at an Olympics in 46 years. Silver medals in the ice hockey, and Team USA well on top at these games.
They certainly are. Now, Erin, this is our last chat from Italy. I can't believe it. It's gone way too quickly. What's been your highlight of covering the games? And you can't say all the delicious food, OK?
Well, I'd say in terms of the Australian medals, Catherine, I think Danielle Scott's silver medal in the women's aerials, that was my highlight. Danielle Scott has been someone who's been on the world tour for close to 15 years and has been on the podium at World Championships, but has never clinched an Olympic medal before or a World Championship gold. And she's won World Cups and she's collected a lot of accolades, but the Olympic medal was the one she was chasing. And by her fourth Olympics, you'd think that she'd be feeling like she had maybe run out of time. And so to see her achieve that, you know, in the latter part of her career, it was just wonderful. And she was just incredibly happy. And it's always great when you see someone just ecstatic at winning a silver or bronze medal. It really, really warms your heart to know that, you know, these medals, they do mean so much. And for Danielle Scott, at the end of her career, she hasn't retired or anything, but of course at 35, after 4 Olympics, you'd think she doesn't have 4 more in her. She can now, you know, finish out her career without any regret, and it's just been wonderful to see.
Oh, it was amazing to see her achieve her dream. Erin Mursigaveder, I've absolutely loved our chats. I'm going to miss them, but we look forward to having you back in Melbourne. Go and enjoy the rest of the closing ceremony.
Thanks, Catherine. I just want to say one more thank you, actually, just to the cameraman, Hamish, who's been standing behind this camera in the snow this whole time.
There he is. Hey, Mum. What's your mum's name? What's his mum's name, Erin? Let's do this properly.
What's Mum's name?
Deb. She'll be watching.
Go, Deb.
And hopefully Dad's awake. He's retired now, so he sleeps in. But hopefully he catches this.
Oh, Erin, love your work. Thank you,
Thanks,
Hamish.
guys.
Thank you, Erin. And most of all, thank you, Deb.
Thanks, Deb.
For giving us Hamish. What a guy.
I've worked with Hamish. He's a legend, as are all of our camera operators across the ABC.
Always the most important
They're
person
behind
on
the
a show.
scenes, but nothing
the
gets
most
to air
important.
without them. They are amazing. Well, let's head back to Emma and Charles in Adelaide now, because it's not all about the Fringe this week. It's almost festival time, guys.
It certainly is, Bridget. Thank you. So the Adelaide Fringe got underway on Friday, but this Friday the Adelaide Festival of Arts gets underway, and we are joined by the Artistic Director, Matthew Lutton. Matt, thanks for joining us this morning.
Thanks for having me.
So this is your first as Artistic Director. How are you feeling?
I'm very excited. It's my first time as Director of Adelaide Festival. So we've got a big program of large-scale theatre and opera, music and dance. It's been an amazing year putting it together, and we kick off on Friday.
It's been a big few months for you as well, particularly with the Adelaide Writers' Week.
Yeah.
How has that been for you? Has it taken a bit of a toll?
Yeah, look, Adelaide Writers' Week was a big challenge. It wasn't what I was expecting my sort of Christmas and January to be doing. But at the moment, we're really focused on the festival for this year, and Adelaide Writers' Week will be back next year.
How has that affected things, though, in terms of ticket sales, in terms of reputation for the Adelaide Festival?
Look, I think it's really revealed that Adelaide Writers' Week is really beloved. Like, we've seen so many audience members wishing they could be there and hearing those writers talking. They're going to flood back next year. And this has really galvanised us that we need arts festivals to be a place of great creativity and freedom of speech.
Dr. Randa Abdel Fattah, she'll be back next year at Writers' Week.
Yeah, the board have offered her an invitation. Absolutely.
Have you seen that support from other writers to say, yes, we'll be back on board for next year as well?
Look, I think all the program and writers for next year will be determined by the next director of Adelaide Writers Week. So we're advertising the role shortly, so we'll see who'll be taking leadership of it.
Matt, let's talk about what this year's festival is going to be all about. What are some of the highlights that people can look forward to?
On Friday, day one, we've got a big opening free concert of Pulp. They're down in Elder Park and they're playing for free, which is the only place you can see them for free in Australia. And then we have two really big large-scale theatre works this weekend. We've got the Cherry Orchard, which comes from Korea, directed by Simon Stone, which is on this big, massive two-storey glass set. Tells the story of a Korean matriarch who's resisting change. And from Germany, we've got History of Violence, which is a queer resilience story by some incredible actors from Germany.
And Matt, you've moved over from Melbourne to Adelaide to take on this role. It's a really well-renowned festival. How's that been for you? What does it mean for you?
Oh, look, I'm pinching myself because it's sort of a dream job. I'm talking to local artists and artists around the world about what they can make and what they can create in Adelaide and Australia, how to dream really big and think of big, ambitious projects. So I'm having fun every day.
And what would you like your stamp to be on this festival here?
Look, I really want to be welcoming in a younger audience to the festival. We've got tickets that are $40 if you're under 40 to nearly everything in the festival. So we really want to just make it heaps of energy, lots of adrenaline, big, large-scale work that you can only see at Adelaide Festival.
No doubt you'll be a busy man over the next few weeks, but what are some of your favourite shows to go to?
Yeah, my schedule's pretty crazy. There's a really work I love coming from Belgium coming next weekend. Called Works and Days. And then on the last weekend, there's Gaps, which is a theatre marathon. It's 8 hours where the entire Great Gatsby is performed on stage. I wish I could be there for all of it, but I'll be dipping in and out all the way through today.
Matt, we are South Australians, so we know what this time of year means to everyone here in this state. You've come over from interstate. Have you been surprised by just how much excitement there is for this time of year, the buzz, whatever, you know, everyone talks about it?
Yeah, it really is Mad March, and I can just sort of see how, like, Adelaide Festival in particular is a place that allows everyone's curiosity to go wild. That you can just see this celebration and pride of going, I couldn't see this anywhere else in the world, I can't see it anywhere else around the country, and that arts has a really special place in Adelaide during March.
Matt Lutton, thank you very much for getting up nice and early for us and joining us this morning.
Thanks so much.
Thanks, Matt. Appreciate it. And now it's time to go back to the studio.
Thanks, guys. You've got a tough job there with that beautiful backdrop behind you. Emma and Charles will come back a little bit later and hear more about everything happening in Adelaide over the next month or so. Let's take a look at what else is making news this morning, though. Police have been searching bushland in Sydney's northwest overnight as they continue their investigation into abducted grandfather Chris Bagzarian. It's now 10 days since the 85-year-old was taken from his North Ryde home in what police have described as a case of mistaken identity.
The Secret Service has shot and killed a man who entered the secure perimeter of Donald Trump's Florida estate, Mar-a-Lago. The US President and the First Lady, Melania Trump, were in Washington at the time. The Secret Service says the man was carrying a shotgun and a fuel can.
The federal opposition has proposed a new criminal offence targeting the repatriation of Australians with links to Islamic State. The new proposal would make it an offence to assist people who are linked to terrorist hotspots or organisations to come back to Australia. It comes as the government reiterates it doesn't support the repatriation of the so-called ISIS brides and their children currently trying to return from Syria.
A major outback rail line has been closed after heavy rain and flash flooding in South Australia's north washed away significant sections of the track. The Australian Rail Track Corporation says it's been forced to close the east-west rail line due to the damage northwest of Port Augusta. The line is a major freight route that connects Perth with Adelaide and the eastern states and is also used by the Indian Pacific.
Well, Nate's got more on that for us now. Nate, a really concerning situation there.
Certainly is. South Australia's really copped it over the weekend. We've got flooding going on in Queensland, the south of the Territory, parts of New South Wales as well. But I wanted to stick in South Australia for now. John Locke is the owner of Conato Station, just east of Port Augusta, and joins me now. John, a very good morning to you. Tell me, what was it like seeing some rain over the weekend? It's been a long time, eh?
Yeah, it has been a very long time, but yeah, it was very welcome. But it would have been nicer only had half as much. So, but anyway, it's what it is.
How much did you actually cop?
77 mil.
Wow, so that's a really decent chunk. What's that done to your property?
Too early to tell yet. We'll get good feed out of this, like, you know, we'll get watersweed and speargrass and stuff like that. And bit of luck, it's too late for potato weed, so I'm hoping we're past that stage. But as for that, I haven't got out yet. Like, it was too wet yesterday afternoon. Well, I couldn't get out anyway. So I don't know if I've lost dams. I know there's a hell of a lot of fencing going around the house here. We run a tourist operation too, and I think I would have lost toilets as well along the creek where there's campsites. So that's a bit of a concern because there's a lot of work went into the toilets. So, yeah.
That's the thing, like it's the good news and the bad together, right? So yay feed, but then the potential for the damage. How long have you been in that region, and have you ever seen anything like this before?
Yeah, I've been like born and bred here. I'm 63 now, but the place has been in the Locke family since 1912, so she's over 100 years. And this would be the biggest flood I've ever seen in my lifetime. There was a bigger one in 1923 when Grandad was here. Like, it took out chunks because we lived next to the old Gan line, and that did take pieces of the railway line near our shearing shed. But this flood was nearly to that stage, but still had another metre or so to go to get to that. But it did jump the creek up the other side of the shearing shed and come around onto the main road and back into the creek, and it jumped the creek in front of the house here as well and went around a piece of land here. So, yeah, it was a bloody big flood.
Yeah. Well, John, as you're getting out today, please do try to stay safe. And I hope there isn't too much damage on Kanata property there.
Yeah, no, I'm sure there will be more as I go inspecting. So, yeah.
Excellent. Thanks so much for joining us this morning. And it's not just South Australia. In fact, I'm keeping a close eye on a big swathe of the interior of the country today because we've got warnings on for more heavy rainfall, intense falls, damaging winds in parts of the Territory and Queensland. We're expecting flash flooding and riverine rise. In fact, through large parts of Queensland, we've got moderate, some major flooding going on. It's a low-pressure system, very slow-moving, well connected to the tropics, but it is feeding that moisture southwards. We're expecting to see widespread thunderstorm action through the day today, and it's sticking around for quite some time to come, although it's not really turning into much for the Capitals team. We've just got some showers around today in Brisbane, Canberra as well. Everyone else in the south is staying fine, and up top, Darwin's just getting a couple of showers, top of 32.
Thanks a lot, Nady. Let's go to Queensland now because the Queensland Government wants tourists to return to flood-affected regions, launching a new campaign under the tagline, Outback Queensland, it's something else. For more, Queensland Premier David Crisafulli joins us now from Brisbane. Good morning to you, Premier.
Good morning, Catherine. It is something else, and anyone who's been there knows that.
Catherine's just beside me, but it's Bridget here you've got this morning. Premier, great to talk to you. Now, tell me, what's at stake if you don't manage to get people back to Outback Queensland? I guess so many businesses and so many families rely on that tourism trade.
Oh, it's pivotal, and in the last 2 years, Queensland's really copped a battering. This is really focused on those who are impacted in 2025. When we were on the ground, we promised them we'd be there for the long term, and I went back only a couple of weeks ago to places like Quilpie and Thargomindah. We are determined to see this through, but they had such a massive impact in their agricultural stocks, and that underpins so much of the community. So tourism is the difference between many of these businesses being able to stay open or not. So it really is large, and our message to people is if you've got the time and the financial capacity, please consider heading west. It's an amazing time of year to see it. It's absolutely beautiful at the moment, and the cherry on the top is Lee Kernaghan playing 5 concerts as well of different varieties. It'll be really, really special out there.
Yeah, and I guess the message is to people out there that it's open for business, because sometimes you think after a disaster, oh, I'm not sure if it's the right time to visit, but often it really is. It can really bolster people's mental health as well, right?
2 things I always say. The first is they need your help more than ever. The second is it's an amazing time to see the outback, within that sort of months and year after an event. It is at its glorious best, and they really do need your help. And just the simple things of going and buying a meal and staying overnight, that just makes such a big economic impact to those communities. But also for yourself, and wherever you're watching this across the country, it's one of the great things you can do with a family. It's one of the great things you can do just for your mental health, to get away. It's a beautiful, beautiful part of our country, and it's something that you really should see in your time on the planet. So go and have a look. Head west and you won't regret it, I can promise you. It really is something else.
How much are you investing in this campaign, Premier, and do you expect to get that money back in revenue that flows from tourism, for example?
Yeah, it's not just us. The federal government's also assisting, and we're really grateful for that partnership. But the local councils are putting into the different tourism providers, a number of our tourism marketing. Each region is really putting their shoulder to the wheel. And I hope that shows how much it means to all of us to get these people back on their feet. When you think about who we are as a country, so much of our identity is centred around that red dirt and that sense of those wide open plains. And we really, really need those businesses out there. If they don't survive, your ability to be able to go out there one day when you want to, it just won't happen. They won't be there. So it really is important, and it's a magnificent time to go and see it.
Premier, let's talk about home insurance premiums. There's more data out this morning that things are getting very costly for Australians, particularly for those in flood-prone areas or disaster-hit areas where you just might have to make a decision after a disaster that you just can no longer afford insurance. Does there need to be a more comprehensive response from state and federal governments on this issue?
Well, firstly, there's a growing cohort of people who are either underinsured or not insured, and that's just quite simply because they've been priced out of the market. So, firstly, the insurance sector as a whole, they also do have to play their part. There's no doubt about that. So too do governments. Now, what we can do, and our end of the bargain, is to make communities and infrastructure more resilient. And we're doing that. We're building levees, we're building detention basins, we're helping homes when they recover from a disaster to be able to go in and put more disaster resilient materials, for example. So we are doing our bit overwhelmingly, and that will take time, but we absolutely have to. The question is, can the insurance sector also do their bit? And can there be a commensurate fall in premiums when this infrastructure comes online? That has to continue, and we have to put the blowtorch on them as a sector. It's important because people need insurance. We live in an amazing country, in an amazing state, but that means that Mother Nature can throw challenges, flood and fire and wind and all sorts of things. But everyone's got a role to play in it, and it can't be all give and no. It can't be all take and no give when it comes to the insurance sector.
Yeah, you can understand that a lot of people are struggling with the costs. Just if I can take you to another issue, and that is about the alleged abuse of children in childcare centres around the country. Parents, victims and survivors were hoping for a much stronger response. We're hearing now this morning in an ABC report that a real-time database that could have shown people working from children checks in real time won't really be up and running until 2029. Is that acceptable, Premier?
Well, we all have to do everything humanly possible to protect the most valuable asset we have, and that's our kids. And any delay puts them at risk. So I can tell you what we've done in Queensland. We've pulled forward the reportable conduct scheme, and it'll come into effect in the next few months. It'll be the strongest in the country, and we are determined to make sure that we do that. We've rolled out Daniel's Law, which is a child sex offender register to make sure that pedophiles can't hide in the shadows. We are strengthening the blue card system. We are putting this front and centre. We have seen what happens when you don't. So any delay is a delay too much, and I can tell you we're going to do everything humanly possible to protect our kids.
All right, Premier David Christophilou, thanks for joining us on News Breakfast.
Appreciate it very much. Thank you.
Let's get a little more now on the soaring cost of home insurance. You just heard from the Queensland Premier, concerned about it also. Stephanie Ferrier joins us now from Melbourne. Steph, give us an update. What sort of price rises on premiums are we talking about?
Good morning, Bridget. Yes, as David Crisafulli was just saying then, it is a real struggle for so many people, with around 15% of Australian households not even able to afford home insurance. But these are latest figures from data analytical firm Finity. It's crunched the numbers and has found that the home insurance costs have actually really sharply skyrocketed by 51% over the past 5 years. So back in 2020, we were looking at an average premium of just over $1,900 a year, and that's now ballooned out. Last October, it was almost $3,000. And if we take a look at the city-by-city breakdown, you can see that in the top end, you're going to be forking out the most, with just over $4,000 in premiums every year for your home. Unfortunately, Brisbane and Sydney aren't far behind, but Adelaide is the cheapest of the lot, with just over $2,000 every year. But it comes as absolutely no surprise to see that those areas that have the highest risk of natural disasters are also where you pay the highest premiums. For example, in the west of Brisbane, you're looking at average prices of around $8,400 a year, which is really quite eye-watering. And one woman who unfortunately had her property affected by floods, both in the 2011 and 22 floods, she was quoted an astronomical $70,000 a year for her home insurance premium. So you can imagine just how difficult this is for so many people. And of course, they are saying that it's not just those natural disasters that are increasing, but it's also the rising building costs that are factoring into these hikes in the premiums.
Thanks very much for the update. Yeah, it's just getting so expensive for people across a range of different sectors, right?
It really is, and we will continue to cover that story this year. We know how important it is to you, but for now, let's bring you up to date with our top stories this hour. Police are searching bushland in Sydney's northwest overnight as they continue their investigation into abducted grandfather Chris Bagsarian.
The Secret Service has shot and killed a man who entered the secure perimeter of Donald Trump's private estate, Mar-a-Lago.
The federal opposition is pushing for a new criminal offence targeting the repatriation of Australians with links to the Islamic State, including the so-called ISIS brides.
And stick around, we've got a very big announcement coming on the show. Do not move a muscle, because I know that it's going to tug at the heartstrings of a lot of people at home. We've had a little
maybe
preview.
Get tissues ready.
But yes, it's going to be coming up in around about, I'd say, 20 minutes or so. So just get your cup of tea, your coffee ready and stay there on the couch. Well, it's almost Mad March in Adelaide, and that means one thing. Back to Emma and Charles, our favourite South Aussies, who are having a lovely morning. I mean, look at that backdrop, Emma.
It is absolutely gorgeous here. So we're in Gluttony, which is on East Terrace, the Eastern Parklands. You've got the Garden of Unearthly Delights next to us as well. This is where thousands and thousands of people congregate for the Adelaide Fringe. It got underway on Friday and it continues to March 22. But it's not just what happens right here. There's just so much everywhere, Charles.
Yeah, there is. And there's so many different genres of shows as well. You've got comedians, musicians, cabaret, some kids shows as well. Emma, what have you been to see?
I actually went and saw a kids show, a family show yesterday in a different area in Victoria Square in the city, at Fool's Paradise. I saw a show there with my nephews, which was a lot of fun.
I didn't know you had kids.
No, I don't have kids, but I took my nephews along. Lots of fun. There's so much to see and do this time of year in Adelaide. And we've got a couple of things in store for you coming up. Stick around, a couple of performances coming up.
Oh, wait. We know there are so many awesome performers in Adelaide at this time of year. Emma and Charles, thanks very much. We will go back to Emma and Charles a little later, but let's go over to Nate now.
This time we're going big. All forms of life, everything from black holes to snowflakes, and pretty much everything in the entire universe is on the agenda when the renowned physicist, author, TV host and Occasional musician Professor Brian Cox stops off in Australia on his latest world tour. Titled Emergence, it's billed as a celebration of the universe and an exploration of the laws of nature which shaped it. And Brian Cox, I'm so glad to say, joins me now from London. Brian, it's been far too long. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you. I was watching those pictures, envious of the temperatures and your wonderful summer. It's raining here and it's freezing cold.
Oh, well, I'm so sorry for that. You lot have had a pretty brutal winter, actually. And, you know, summer in Australia is always about severe weather. When is it that you're coming?
So I arrive in May, and throughout May we're beginning Sydney and then on to Melbourne, Newcastle, Wollongong, which I've never been to before. Adelaide, Perth, everywhere, essentially.
Excellent. Well, I've got a little bit of time to try to fix the weather here for you by then. OK, so Emergence, let's talk about it. In the new show, you are really investigating how complexity comes from some pretty sort of simple bones. How does it work?
Well, the show starts with the story of Johannes Kepler. So Kepler is most famous for his laws of planetary motion. So he discovered that planets orbit around the sun in ellipses. But in the middle of figuring out all that, the winter of 1609, he wrote a beautiful little book called The Six-Cornered Snowflake, in which he told a story about walking across the Charles Bridge in Prague on New Year's Eve in a snowstorm and watching the snowflakes land on his arm. And he asked a question, which is, what is the origin of the shape of the snowflake, the six corners of the snowflake? Why are they all six-cornered? Now, that's a tremendously beautiful and modern question. We're asking about the origin of a pattern or symmetry in nature. And he couldn't have answered it, of course. You need to know that everything's made of atoms. You need to know about quantum theory and all sorts of things of the 20th and 21st century science. But in asking that question, he began that journey. Many historians cite that time, actually, as the beginning of modern science. And as I say in the show, only 400 years later, we've gone from dreaming of other worlds, Kepler looking at those points of light in the sky and trying to understand how they move. We've gone from dreaming of them to sending spacecraft to visit them all. And so the show really is a story of how it was that we went from a world of almost magic and superstition to the world we have today in just about 4 centuries.
Which is still full of magic, just magic that we're trying to explain with science. What lessons can we draw from history as we look towards the future?
Oh, I think, I say this really clearly in the show, actually. The lesson is that if you're curious about nature and you ask very simple questions about it, then you can be led to wonderful things. But the key is that you never know which bit, but which question it is. I mean, Kepler's question about the shape and symmetry of snowflakes ultimately leads you to atoms and molecules. And those are the technologies, by the way, based on that knowledge that we use to build transistors and silicon chips in essentially the modern world. And so you never quite know which question it is that you should ask. And so I think the lesson actually is just ask them all. Yeah. Be curious about the natural world.
I wonder, Brian, I'm desperately jealous of your brain. Was there anything that blew it a little bit during your research for this show?
Yeah, I mean, one of the key ideas in the show is that not knowing and understanding that you don't know and being delighted that you don't know is the foundation of science. And so quite a large part of the show are the things we don't know. So, for example, I talk about and this was one of the most remarkable things when I first learnt it, we talk about the oldest light in the universe. It's called the cosmic microwave background radiation. But this is light that's been travelling for 13.8 billion years across the universe. So it's light that began its journey before any stars and galaxies had formed. And there are patterns in that light, just like there are patterns in snowflakes. But the patterns come from sound waves moving through the young universe in the first few 100,000 years. And those sound waves, one of the deep questions is what started the universe ringing, almost like a bell. And it's a really deep question because those sound waves ultimately are the reason that the first galaxies formed. So in a way, this sound, this ringing of the universe at the Big Bang, or even perhaps before the Big Bang, is the reason we are here. And so that's one of the most wonderful things when I first learnt it. So I explored that in the show.
That just makes me feel so happy, Brian. That's so happy. I just have one more question for you. Excellent what you're doing, you know, as science communicators, all trying to do our best. How do you see the world at the moment as it relates to people and their connection with science? Because it's been under attack.
Yes, and again, I do mention in the show, although we're exploring the most beautiful things in science, I do mention that the foundation of science is admitting that you don't know. And I have a line actually in the show towards the end, which is that I'm worried that the world is full of too many people who think they know everything. And if you think you know everything, then you can't make any progress. And there are so many things. Carl Sagan, my hero, said that out there's something wonderful waiting to be known. There are so many things that we don't know and don't understand that if we sort of drown in this sort of noise of certainty that we find around at the moment, and we're all, you know, we all hear this noise of people being absolutely certain that they're right, then we'll never discover those wonderful things. And so that would be my message. Just find it magnificent that there are questions that we don't have answers to.
I love it. Everything in the universe is our best guess. A rigorous best guess, but best guess nonetheless. Brian, thank you so much for joining us once again. I cannot wait to see you in May.
Thank you very much.
I hope you all feel as equally mind blown as me.
Oh, you two nerding out. I just love it. You're such a good combination. And we know he will join us on the show, hopefully in a couple of months when he's down under.
What a chat.
Yeah.
What a chat. I love seeing Nate that happy and well and truly in his happy place. OK, let's talk sport. An Aussie teenage skiing sensation, Indra Brown, has just fallen short of a medal at the Winter Olympics. The 16-year-old finished 5th in the free ski half-pipe event, with China's Eileen Gu taking out the gold. Her finish is the best by an Australian teenager since the one and only Jakara Anthony came 4th in the moguls at the 2018 Winter Olympics. Now to NRL, and Penrith star Nathan Cleary will risk missing the first 3 games of the season by challenging a ban at the judiciary tonight. Cleary was handed a 2-match suspension for a high hit during a pre-season game against the West Tigers. If his challenge is unsuccessful, he'll have 1 match added to that ban and he'll miss games against Brisbane, the Broncos, that is, Cronulla and the Sydney Roosters. And last but not least, the Brumbies have secured their first win in Christchurch in 26 years, absolutely thrashing the Crusaders. How good is it to say that? 50 points to 24. James Slipper was among 8 try scorers as he became the first Australian to play 200 Super Rugby matches. Can you believe it? A stunning 3-try burst with 8 minutes remaining set up the victory. Congratulations to James Slipper. What can I say? He's a prop, Bridget. You're from a very rugby family. Your husband loves it.
My husband will know what that means.
He's a prop.
All I
can say is he should not be scoring tries.
Okay.
And Nate, as someone who this year I really feel your sport addiction is growing.
Help me, Bridgie. Help me. Help me.
He's a shout out to James Slipper,
addicted.
but he shouldn't be scoring tries. He's a prop.
We'll take your word for it.
Yeah, look what she said. I'll tell you what I do know about. Get into the maps. We've got a fine one actually for most of the capitals today. We're looking at some showers around though for Brisbane and Canberra, Darwin too. Look, everyone's looking pretty comfy temperature-wise, but it's the wild weather through the interior that I'm keeping an eye on. Heavy to intense rainfall, some damaging winds, severe thunderstorms, all thanks to a tropical low that isn't going anywhere. More details for you next hour.
Yeah, stay safe out there. Great to have your company. Stay tuned for a very special announcement.
I haven't had a day of relief since my surgery.
Gynecology's open secret.
Why do you think this hasn't come out? It's very concerning that this was allowed to be swept under the carpet.
I remember one young girl in the waiting room. I didn't want him to up her life too.
The shocking truth.
It's beyond comprehension, really.
There's a financial incentive to operate rather than listen.
I would probably ask him how he sleeps at night. Was it worth it?
Four Corners, tonight, ABC and iView.
Hi, I'm Patricia Carvelis. In our fast-moving world, weekdays I'll unpack the latest in politics.
What is he going to offer that my community is asking for?
Our shifting national affairs.
Young people in this country are angry about housing.
And the global events shaping our lives.
We're seeing a rise in white supremacy.
Tough questions.
Are we set for a year of pain, Minister?
The big issues.
It's not just our communities that are struggling here.
Afternoon briefing, weekdays at 4 p.m. Eastern on ABC News Channel. Tensions in the Baltic.
Russia's ambitions go well beyond Ukraine.
We are Russia's next target.
Are we in a new Cold War?
Well, it's more hot.
Denmark is racing to rearm. Every 18-year-old female must be registered for combat.
Now, NATO has a new threat from within.
We need Greenland.
We've seen a geopolitical rupture.
If my country requires me to fight, yeah, I would do it.
Foreign Correspondent, tomorrow at 8 on ABC and ABC iView.
Stay safe this summer and remember your ABCs.
A is for Action Plan.
Use the resources on the ABC's emergency website to create your plan.
Be safe.
Our website is full of tips to help you stay safe in an emergency.
Connect with us.
If your area is under threat, tune into ABC Radio for the most reliable and up-to-date information.
This summer, know your ABCs.
Visit abc.net.au/emergency.
The search expands. Police scour Sydney bushland as they investigate the abduction of 85-year-old Chris Bagzarian.
Mar-a-Lago mayhem. The Secret Service kills a man carrying a shotgun at Donald Trump's Florida resort.
The opposition pushes to outlaw helping the so-called ISIS brides return home to Australia.
Outback deluge. Heavy rain causes chaos across multiple states, closing the vital East-West Railway.
Surgery scandal. The government responds to Four Corners' months-long investigation into one of Melbourne's most prominent gynecologists.
Well, they're some of the most distressing testimonies I've ever seen in my many years in the health portfolio. My deepest